The hearing will be called to order. This is a hearing of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And the hearing is entitled the Minority Business Development Agency, Enhancing the Prospects for Success. And the chair yields himself 5 minutes for the purposes of an opening statement. The 111th Congress took extraordinary steps to turn around our moribund economy when it passed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Back in October 2008, I told citizens in my district and also across the nation that I had just begun to ensure that the concerns of people living on Main Street would not be, quote, eclipsed by the excesses of Wall Street, end of quote. Today's hearing is a continuation of my pledge. This hearing is more than just about the Minority Business Development Agency. It really is about the larger matter of what we, as members of Congress, can do to assist the executive branch in coming up with a prescription to help cure our fiscal and economic ills. As part of that prescription building, we will have a frank discussion today regarding the MBDA's reformulated vision from its new national director, Mr. David A. Henson, and whether it makes sense to endow MBDA with more resources to pursue that vision. In listening to the testimony and ideas of our distinguished panel of guests, we will discover what MBDA could do in conjunction with the Department of Commerce to help reverse the devastation that has touched down on many of our formerly hardworking and historically blue-collar and minority communities. These communities have suffered disproportionately under the yoke of this recession. I'm of the belief that the MBDA can be an agent for positive change, not just on Wall Street, but on Raleigh Road in Wilson, North Carolina, on South Presser Street in San Antonio, Texas, and on South King Drive and West 74th Street in my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. To make sure that change, the federal government and the states must authorize more spending of stimulus dollars and Recovery Act contracting with minority businesses that I might add that have proven time and time again that they can complete projects on time and within budget. There can be no other fair outcome. Minority firms have a greater tendency than non-minority firms to train future minority entrepreneurs, recruit and hire minority workers, and set up operations in minority communities. African Americans have a greater tendency to hire African Americans. Women tend to hire women. Hispanic Americans tend to hire Hispanic Americans, and so on and so on and so on it goes. This is how the real world operates. Really, to understand this aforementioned dynamic, one need not look any further than the halls of Congress. Since the start of the recession in December 2007, unemployment rates for all the major working groups are much higher. The unemployment rates for minority workers are even higher than those for white workers by as much as 50%. According to the most recent Department of Labor employment statistics, the unemployment rate across race, sex, and age for African Americans is 15.3%. In 2007, it was 8.6%. For Hispanic Americans, it's 12.2%. In December 2007, it was 6.3%. For Asian Americans, it's 7.4%. In 2007, it was 3.7%. For Indian American and Alaska Natives, it's 15%. In 2007, it was 7.8%. And for Native Hawaiians, it's 14.4%. In 2007, it was 2.8%. These are horrifying statistics. They paint a picture of the underutilization of minority workers, which is a harbinger of worse things to come. In closing, I want to thank the witnesses for coming here to offer us your perspective. You are serving more than minority business through your appearances. You also helping to uplift the U.S. from the severely economically distressed position that it now finds itself. I want to thank you, and I yield back when my time has expired. And now it's my pleasure and honor to recognize the ranking member, Dr. Gingrey, for 5 minutes for the purposes of opening statements.
Chairman Rush, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you calling today's oversight hearing regarding Commerce Department's Minority Business Development Agency. Most businesses in this country, as we all know, are small businesses, and the value of small companies is significant. They provide the lifeblood of our economy. They employ more than half of all workers in this country. In fact, they have provided more than 14 million net new jobs created over the past 15 years. Small firms are the bedrock of American capitalism, and they should be encouraged. Some of our most creative and valuable enterprises have started in someone's garage with nothing more than an idea. While we can't guarantee successful outcomes, we can and we should work to ensure the path for small business contains as few hurdles as possible. And for small businesses, regulatory compliance is an enormous hurdle. For small businesses, regulatory compliance is a much greater burden than it is for a larger firm that have economies of scale, and they can absorb these costs much more easily. As expected, the effect for small businesses, let's say one with fewer than 20 employees, is even greater. The cost of compliance with federal regulations for firms with fewer than 20 employees averages 45% more per employee than it does for large firms. These small businesses spend approximately $7,647 per employee to meet federal environmental, economic, workplace, and tax compliance requirements. These costs are real, and they can be disastrous to many small businesses that are, in some cases, home-based businesses. We have heard from many who closed their doors because they were affected by the unforeseen regulatory cost of the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act, which made it too expensive to conduct business. As we look at the Minority Business Development Agency and its priorities, I would suggest that we focus on facilitating small business entry into the market by limiting unnecessary regulatory costs and roadblocks. Creating an environment conducive to job creation is always good policy, and I will always support it. Our country is the world leader in providing the opportunities to succeed, and the result has been a pipeline of small businesses and entrepreneurs that are invaluable to this dynamic United States economy. Given the state of the world economy, addressing obstacles that hold back many of our small businesses is a good idea, indeed an excellent idea. The Commerce Department's Minority Business Development Agency is one federal initiative that seeks to promote minority business opportunities and the continued growth of their businesses. Currently, there are over 4 million minority-owned businesses in the United States. They range in background from native-born Americans to recent immigrants from many different ethnicities. Their common thread is they came to America to pursue a better life in the land of limitless opportunities. I'm proud to say that many of the residents have used this opportunity to start successful businesses. So I am very interested in how the Minority Business Development Agency seeks to promote small businesses and to ensure opportunities exist for everyone who has the will and the determination to pursue the American dream. As I said at the subcommittee's first trade hearing back in March, often the difference that turns a struggling business into a successful one is the connection between buyers and sellers. Those networking opportunities and connections can be aided by our government's promotional efforts. Expanding the market of potential buyers often leads to a new export and trade opportunities that are beneficial to our entire economy. It's not our role to ensure, we can't really, whether a particular business is successful. That's up to the business and its ability to execute in its own level of entrepreneurship. But we can seek to ensure that our existing resources that enhance small business growth are available to all Americans. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to the testimony of the witnesses, and I yield back at this time.
The chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 2 minutes of opening statements.
Well, thank you, Chairman Rush, very much, and welcome to our witnesses here today. Here, we find ourselves in the worst economic downturn in a generation, and the challenge now with the recovery plan and all of our efforts is to ensure that we save jobs and we create jobs. And it is most important throughout our neighborhoods and communities that these are the hard-working folks that keep the economy going, our small businesses and folks that may be particularly vulnerable in these type of downturns. So we need your help and we need your advice on what we do to make sure the Recovery Act is implemented as effectively as possible. And I'd like to hear how we use the new tools of modern technology to communicate, because you all understand better than anyone how difficult it is to get the word out. That's the challenge for many of these businesses and business owners. They want to compete, and they can compete very well, but they have to know about the opportunities. And I found myself back home in Florida being a conduit explaining what some of the opportunities are under the Recovery Act. But it's difficult. It's so vast and expansive. This next weekend we're going to have a big seminar and invite all of our small businesses, disadvantaged business, women-owned, HUBZone certified, veteran-owned, service-disabled, to come hear from the U.S. GSA and small business folks, and bring in other representatives through local government and in our neighborhoods to spread the word. But we need to do more, and I want to hear from you all, with all of your expertise, how we can do a better job to keep people working and make sure our businesses have every opportunity to compete. Thank you.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Space, for 5 minutes. He's not here.
Just would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership on this issue, and thank the witnesses for taking the time to prepare and offer your testimony today. It seems one of the unfortunate ironies of difficult economic times is that those who oftentimes need the most help are the first ones to get cut. And I think the SBA's cuts have been a reflection of that maxim. That certainly applies to other areas as well. My district happens to be a very rural one, a very poor one, and the services that normally would be applied to areas like ours to help stimulate economic development, the areas like ours that need the most help are the services that have diminished or disappeared in the wake of difficult economic times, and it oftentimes can become a cyclical, a vicious cyclical pattern. So I'm, again, grateful for your taking the time to prepare and offer your testimony today, and look forward to hearing it. Thank you. Yield back.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez, for 2 minutes.
I'll waive opening, Mr. Chairman.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now moves to the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Butterfield, for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for convening this very important hearing today. When I first came on this subcommittee a few months ago, you told me that this was your passion and this was something that we could expect during your tenure. And I want to thank you very much for living up to your promise. I, too, have a very profound interest in minority business development. I have had that passion for a very long time. And so I want to thank all of you, the 4 witnesses, for coming, and thank you for what you do to make this a reality. I must say in the outset that I have a bias, Mr. Henson, toward the Department of Commerce. My daughter started this week as an appointee in the Trade Administration. And so we now have something in common, and I look forward and welcome you as you take on this responsibility. Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned a minute ago, I represent a very poor, low-income rural district in eastern North Carolina. My district is the fourth poorest district in the United States of America. My district is about 50% minority. Most of those minorities are African Americans. And I can tell you that we have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses in my district who are positioned to thrive if they could just get the financial resources and the technical expertise to make this happen. And so I want to encourage you to do more with the resources that you have at your disposal to try to make this happen. There is a parallel agency in my state, and I think most of you may be familiar with it. It's the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development, led by a friend of mine, Andrea Harris. I've known Andrea for at least 40 years. She wouldn't want me to say that, but she's a dynamic individual. That institution is helping minority businesses in my district do things that they need to do. And so I welcome you. I pledge to work with you. I'm going to work with the chairman and the ranking member and anyone in this Congress who wants to promote minority business development. The Congressional Black Caucus is totally committed to this effort. It has been for many years. And now that we have new leadership in the White House and in this Congress, hopefully we can make it a reality. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I yield back.
Mr. Sarbanes from Maryland is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look forward to the hearing. In particular, as has been mentioned by a number of folks, the role that's played in terms of reaching out and providing service and support to minority-owned businesses and small businesses. That role is ever more important in these difficult times that we're facing right now. What tends to happen, of course, is in a tough economy, particularly when you have a stimulus effort like we have, and you're trying to move quickly to get the stimulus distributed through the economy. You can tend then to overlook small businesses and go to kind of the big players. At the same time, the mid-size and larger contractors, from what I've heard, because they are relatively desperate to get work, are kind of muscling in on some of the space traditionally occupied by the smaller businesses. And so I look forward to hearing the testimony today and maybe having some of those issues addressed. And I yield back my time. Thank you.
The chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Braley, for 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this important hearing. In the 110th Congress, I was chair of the subcommittee on contracting and technology on the Small Business Committee, and we talked a lot in our hearings about how to improve the effectiveness of programs like the Hub Zone and 8A business development programs and level the playing field for minority-owned small businesses. And one of the things that stood out during those hearings with the SBA was that the federal government was not keeping its promise to make sure that a certain percentage of contracts were going to minority-owned businesses. And at that time, I pushed, and I will continue to push, to make sure the government is providing the tools and resources to help small businesses flourish and making sure that government contracts are going to a diverse group of businesses. One of the other things I learned during those hearings was that growing businesses have a difficult transition period once they exceed SBA size standards and are no longer eligible for programs offered by the SBA. That's why the Minority Business Development Agency is so important. For the past 40 years, it's been providing technical assistance, education, and training to help these minority-owned businesses as they move into this next stage of development. And it's especially important as a resource as this nation continues its economic recovery. While I'm certainly appreciative of all the great work that the MBDA is doing, I also believe that one of the greatest challenges this agency faces is that it's grossly underfunded. In fact, it's the smallest funded government agency, having received just $29 million last year. We need to make business development a greater priority and to make sure agencies like MBDA have the resources they need to create more procurement opportunities for minority business owners and jobs for minority workers. This is an investment that pays for itself through job creation and an increased tax base. I also think greater effort should be made to coordinate with the SBA so there's a smoother transition for these 8A graduates and these entrepreneurs to continue to have access to tools and expertise they need so their businesses can grow and compete globally. Minority-owned businesses make up nearly 20% of all U.S. businesses, but continue to be overlooked by many prime contractors in landing contracts with the federal government. Great strides have been made in the private sector to expand opportunities for minorities. It's time for the federal government to do its share. Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the witnesses for joining us today. And I yield back.
The chair thanks the gentleman, and now it is my distinct honor and privilege to recognize the visitors and also those who are in the audience. I want to acknowledge you, but I also want to pay special and give special recognition to those who are witnesses before this subcommittee. And I'll introduce them beginning on my left. On my left is Mr. David Henson. He is the National Director of the Minority Business Development Agency for the Department of Commerce. And next to Mr. Henson is Ms. Cindy Ramos Davison. She is the Ramos Davison. She's the President and CEO of the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And next to her, I am very, very delighted to have with us someone from my hometown, Ms. Sheila Hill. She's the president of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. And next to Ms. Hill is Ms. Susan Allen. She's the president and CEO of the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce. Before I proceed any further, it is the common practice of this committee that I swear in the witnesses. So would you please stand and raise your right hand? At that moment, my cell phone, BlackBerry. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please let the record reflect that the witnesses have all answered in the affirmative. And now the chair is delighted and pleased to recognize the director of the MBDA, Mr. Henson. But before Mr. Henson begins, let me just state something for the record as the chair. Mr. Henson, you are certainly welcome here at any point in time. I met you in my office, and you're a delight. But I am woefully and disappointed that we did not have an assistant secretary or someone that will really have the authority to speak across the board. And I know you have the authority to speak for the department, but I am just astounded that at this hearing, which is the first hearing that this subcommittee has had on this matter in a while, and that it's been almost 40 years since the inception of MBDA. I'm really astounded that there is not enough interest, or what I perceive as interest, at the Department of Commerce. And would you please send the message back that I am absolutely determined that the next hearing that we have assistant secretary or higher, because this MBDA is getting ready to grow in significance as far as I'm concerned, okay, and as far as the U.S. Congress is concerned. And so it won't be the smallest agency in the U.S. government if I have anything to do with it and other members of this committee. So please get back and tell them to get their acting together now, and increase their own responsibilities and their sensitivities to the issue that your agency is concerned about and that your agency has as its mission. Let the word go forth. And we will have another hearing soon, and we expect to have not only you present, but someone who is an assistant secretary present also, or if not the secretary of Commerce. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much. Now it's my pleasure to recognize the National Director of the MBDA, Mr. Henson, for 5 minutes for opening statements.
Good afternoon, Chairman Rush and Ranking Member Gingrey, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting the Minority Business Development Agency here today to discuss how MBDA and the Department of Commerce is helping create wealth and jobs in the minority business community and the global economy. My name is David Henson, and I was appointed as National Director of the Minority Business Development Agency by Commerce Secretary Gary Locke on July 15, 2009. MBDA has been in existence for over 40 years. The agency was originally established through executive order by President Richard Nixon on March 5, 1969. The agency is currently authorized by Executive Order 11625 as amended and receives annual appropriations from Congress. MBDA's vision is economic prosperity for all American business enterprises. The agency's mission is to foster the growth and global competitiveness of U.S. businesses that are minority-owned. It is my mission that each member of Congress comes to understand the economic contributions that MBDA makes both in their local communities and to the entire nation. MBDA works with minority firms of all sizes during all stages of their business life cycle. MBDA aims to create a new generation of businesses with $100 million in annual revenue, which in turn generates higher economic activity and job creation. Based upon the needs of the client, MBDA provides the following business services through our nationwide network: business consulting, procurement matching, private equity and venture capital sourcing, bonding assistance and loan packaging, strategic partnering, and market promotion. MBDA funds a nationwide network of 46 centers which are operated as public-private partnerships. The centers are staffed by professional consultants who have the knowledge and practical experience necessary to operate profitable businesses. Clients of the centers include businesses owned and operated by Native Americans, Hasidic Jewish Americans, Native Hawaiians, Alaska Natives, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Hispanic Americans, and African Americans. MBDA's performance is evaluated annually on the number of new jobs created, the total dollar value of contract awards, and the total dollar value of financing transactions generated by the agency. In fiscal year 2008, MBDA generated over $1 billion in contracts, more than $1 billion in financial transactions, and generated 5,316 new jobs. Preliminary results for fiscal year 2009 look to be equally as positive. So as you can see, MBDA's programs increase the economic activity at the local, regional, and national level. This economic activity translates into reduced unemployment, stronger businesses, expanded tax bases, the creation of wealth, and community investment. Congress has conducted numerous hearings and received numerous reports that demonstrate the persistence of discriminatory barriers that continue to limit contracting opportunities for minority businesses. As part of my written testimony, I am submitting Appendix A, a list of hearings and materials that have already been presented to Congress, and Appendix B, a list of state and local government disparity studies. MBDA is an important catalyst in building stronger minority business communities. More than 18% of all U.S. non-publicly traded firms are minority-owned. Yet these firms represent only 7.5% of the total gross receipts generated by all U.S. businesses. This disparity underscores the opportunity gap that still exists in the U.S. economy. If the minority business community were performing at economic parity, the U.S. economy would benefit from an additional $1.8 trillion in annual gross receipts 11.4 million new jobs, and an additional tax base exceeding $100 billion per year. A more comprehensive discussion regarding economic parity for MBEs and on the business characteristics of MBEs is available in 2 MBDA publications which have been provided to the subcommittee staff. In conclusion, MBDA has identified the following 3 strategic priorities and continues to implement programs to achieve these goals. Improve marketplace access and opportunity. Improve access to traditional and non-traditional sources of capital. Serve as a knowledge center and valuable resource for minority business stakeholders. I would like to thank Chairman Rush and the Ranking Member Gendry and the entire subcommittee for allowing me to testify before you today. I respectfully request the Chairman to enter my full written testimony along with the 2 MBDA reports mentioned, as well as Appendix A and Appendix B in the official hearing record.
There's been a unanimous consent request. Hearing no objection, the aforementioned articles and reports will be included in the record. So ordered.
On a final note, Mr. Chairman, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, the Department of Commerce and MBDA are encouraged by this opportunity to testify. We look forward to working with you to create an environment where minority firms have an equal opportunity to participate in the marketplace. Thank you very much.
The Chair thanks the Chairman. Now it is my honor and pleasure to recognize for 5 minutes for the purposes of opening statement Ms. Ramos Davidson.
Mr. Chairman, would you allow me to ask a question of the chair, please?
Yes, please.
Are any of the minority members of this committee going to join us today? Have you received any word?
Well, it was the ranking member, Mr. Gingrey. They keep changing ranking members on us. He was here. I can't speak for the minority.
May I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
How many Republican members are on this subcommittee?
There are 12.
And are any of them represented by staff today?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Ramos Davidson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on recommendations to enhance the prospects of success through the Minority Business Development Agency. I am Cindy Ramos Davidson, President and CEO of the El Paso Hispanic Chamber, a nationally and statewide recognized chamber that not only serves our local market, but serves small, minority, and women-owned businesses in our borderplex in our region. I am here today to testify on behalf of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business federation, representing more than 3 million Hispanic-owned businesses and organizations of every size, sector, and region, as well as the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is an affiliate of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber. And I'm in a unique position to be able to provide you some testimony today because you're looking at the real face that's in the street every day who utilizes these programs to be able to move opportunity forward. The El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has successfully operated an SBA-funded women's business center for the past 8 years. More recently, and I'm proud to say, as an operator of a minority business enterprise center in partnership with MBDA and the U.S. Department of Commerce for the last 18 months. I think it's important to note that I tried for 5 different times to be able to be awarded the center because I understood and recognized the need for the services the center offered in our market. And each time we applied and we didn't get selected, we kept going back and going back. So a lot of that tenacity and sweat equity that we do every day is what we teach in our centers. It's of interest to note that the El Paso Hispanic Chamber and the Arizona Hispanic Chamber are the only 2 minority chambers in the country currently operating minority business enterprise centers in partnership with MBDA. In addition, we operate a satellite PTAC in partnership with our community college, which is partnered with the Department of Defense, Defense Logistics Agency, a hub development center of excellence for both state and federal hub designation, an empowerment zone technical assistance center in partnership with our city of El Paso and HUD, and our newest one that we're going to open up on the 28th, which is our Texas Department of Transportation Business Opportunity Center in partnership with TxDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. We are honored to be associated with each of these agencies and confident that we can provide testimony as an effectiveness of these centers for minority business populations we serve. Our efforts are grassroots, provided bilingually with technical assistance and development for every phase of startup and growth industry businesses would not be possible without the support of all these agencies. From January 1st, 2003 to July 31st, 2009, we have serviced through our counseling and training centers 28,101 individuals, assisted in financing projects totaling $51 million, provided successful procurement and bid matches totaling $61 million, helped assist in the startup of 3,316 businesses, most notably assisted 3,668 expanding businesses, which helped to create and retain over 11,000 jobs. As a veteran community with our military base, Fort Bliss, we have serviced 747 veteran and service-disabled clients, 722 home-based businesses, and 14,152 female clients, all of these centers providing an estimated impact to our community of $362 million. Being on the street and in the trenches every day, we understand firsthand the needs of minority business and feel that these agencies work in tandem with MBDA to complement each other's services. The SBA has been a primary agency for startup businesses, providing much-needed support in the area of accessing hard-to-find capital through guarantee loan programs, business plan development, and marketing strategies. But MBDA is the core of opportunity for the market we serve. That's where the strength of economic viability is going to come, is through those growth industries, those businesses that we help through the MBDA. MBDA's Minority Business Enterprise Centers, their Native American Business Enterprise Centers, and their Minority Opportunity Centers provide a much deeper level of assistance to small businesses to grow through larger, more complex traditional lending avenues, such as bonding assistance, guidance on procurement strategies, such as joint ventures and teaming agreements, and providing networking and contracting opportunities through its wide network of resources. The diversity of services and clients enables all minority entrepreneurs who need assistance to receive it with our support, to be able to continue to champion their own destiny and catch a part of the American dream through free enterprise. To date, the El Paso MBEC has received and worked through companies in our area of $528,398,207 through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. I do have a copy here of all of those jobs through AAR that we have done if anybody needs a copy of those. With the support of our MBEC and the U.S. Department of Commerce, we have been able to ensure that minority-owned businesses in our community are able to successfully bid and perform on these jobs. The report has also shown there's a significant support avenue in terms of helping these companies become not just stay small, but to be able to grow. We have 7 centers within our organization, and each one of those centers works hand in hand with the MBEC to be able to provide what is necessary to grow these businesses. We feel that consideration should be given to making MBDA have a much greater influence in this country, because you're looking at the face who works day and day with the company who wants to start a business, has a wonderful idea, and doesn't know where to get started. The resources we have are great, but we could do so much more if we had more resources. And I am with you, Mr. Chairman. MBDA is the smallest, but yet it does the best work. It's got the biggest heart, more passion than anybody I've seen, but we can certainly triple that if we had more dollars and more resources. I thank you for, because I see my time is up, for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a unanimous consent request that the aforementioned reports that Mrs. Ramos Davidson brought in her testimony, that they be entered into the record. Hear no objections, so ordered. Now it is my pleasure again to recognize the Chicagoan among the group, Ms. Hill. Ms. Hill, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much,
and welcome.
Congressman. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank.
Would you pull that microphone close to you? Make sure it's on. Thank you.
Better?
Yes, much better.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Honorable Bobby L. Rush, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Trade, and Consumer Protection, and the distinguished committee members for giving me this opportunity to speak. I am Sheila Hill. I'm President and CEO of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, a 43-year-old not-for-profit organization founded on the basic principle that all should have equal access to participate in the commerce of this country. I've been in this industry for more than 20 years, and I've been an entrepreneur, a Fortune 500 corporate professional, and now the leader of the Minority Supplier Development Council. The Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council is the founding member council of the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and it represents over 37 affiliate councils, 16,000 certified minority businesses, and more than 3,500 major buying organizations. The mission of the council is to create an environment that maximizes business opportunities between buying organizations, certified MBEs, and to provide development services to foster the creation of mutually beneficial business relationships. Therefore, our relationship with MBDA is a perfect marriage. CMSDC has maintained a 40-plus year relationship with the Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA, U.S. Department of Commerce, and has been the operator of the Chicago Minority Business Opportunity Center for 6 years. We also operate the Gary Minority Business Opportunity Center and co-operate the Chicago MBAC. Our relationship with MBDA is unique, and it is in conjunction with this relationship the minority business community has benefited and business opportunities have prospered. Through this relationship, the operation of the MBOC has created jobs, accessed contracts, both public and private sector, increased financial transactions, including but not limited to mergers and acquisitions. In fact, the MBOC has generated approximately $1 billion in contracts and financial transactions over the past 3 years. The Chicago model is an excellent model, it's a good working model, and it's one that I hope will be replicated across the country. MBDA provides vital resources to the business community, and although the name says minority, its policies far exceed the minority business community. And for the record, committee members, public policy dictates private behavior and policy. MBDA's initiatives impact all Americans, not just minority Americans. It's an American agency, not just a minority business agency. Parity for people of color in business does not exist. Discrimination is still extremely widespread. Access to contracts, financing, and bonding, which lead to growth, prosperity, and employment, continue to be limited. Minority businesses need access and business development, and it's through the support of MBDA that these things happen. At approximately $29 million, the Minority Business Development Agency is the smallest federally funded agency within the government. Nevertheless, for the last 5 years, the citizens of America have realized a minimum return of 54 times and a maximum return of 74 times. I think that's pretty substantial. As a business professional committed to the growth and development of minority businesses, the growth and development of this country, it's mission critical for MBDA to be better funded. Had the MBDA budget remained flat over the past 40 years, it would be minimally a $300 million agency. As operator of the Chicago MBOC, this would allow me to serve more MBEs. Larger, more successful MBEs would hire more employees. More employees would positively contribute to the economy, pay more taxes, and build our country. MBDA is the only federal agency specifically devoted to growth and development of minority businesses. And it was created back in 1969, as you all know, by executive order. It needs to have statutory authority. Transparency and accountability to ensure a level playing field is still needed. A perusal of Fed bid ops would confirm that minority businesses are not widely being included in the stimulus, TARP, or ARA. MBDA is critical to enhancing the prospects for success. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
The chair thanks the witnesses. And now the chair recognizes Mrs. Allen for 5 minutes for the purposes of an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 1984, 11 Asian Pacific Americans from Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. had an idea. We want to bring together the very diverse Asian Pacific American business owners for the common purpose of developing a national business and professional network. That was also the year I received my law degree. And as the only lawyer in the group, I was asked to form the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce Foundation. My goal then was to create for the Asian American business community a strong voice in our nation's capital and in the rest of the country that would speak to their talents, capabilities, aspirations, concerns, challenges, and the contributions that they have made to this country since the year 79 AD. Since our founding, we have been working to help Asian American businesses to succeed and thrive, including providing certification to qualified Asian American businesses that want to do business in the minority business community and in the mainstream marketplace. This is a very important program for Asian Americans to get involved in. And in order for them to get into this area, they have to be certified as a minority business, and I will talk about that further. Today, USPAC has expanded its nationwide reach with national headquarters in Washington, D.C., and 6 regional chapters in California, Texas, Georgia, Illinois, and the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. We have the largest database that contains information about the most important, innovative, and cost-effective Asian American suppliers across industries. Our Small Business Transportation Resource Center in the Southwest region, based in San Francisco, helps to prepare small businesses that include Hispanic, African American, Asian, Native American, women, upzone-based, veterans, and disabled veteran-owned businesses located in Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, Utah, so they could have an equal opportunity to participate in U.S. Department of Transportation-related contracts at the local, state, and federal levels. Through our unique one-on-one pre-scheduled business matchmaking meetings, we were the first to introduce a platform that allows suppliers to build business connections and strengthen relationships with potential customers. Along with our summits, seminars, and workshops, we continue to educate and nurture our members. The Asian Americans now account for approximately 15.2 million of the U.S. population, with the majority born from overseas. As an ethnic group, we are diverse and complex, with origins from countries in East Asia, Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and the Pacific Islands, speaking over 100 languages and dialects. By the year 2050, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, the Asian American population is projected to climb to over 40 million people, or nearly 10% of the U.S. population. We have now enjoyed the highest median household income in the United States, with a buying power of $526 billion a year. Today, Asian Americans is relatively young, well-educated, and the most wired, internet-savvy, bilingual ethnic group with deeper pockets and technologically savvy too. Among U.S. small businesses, MBEs, minority business enterprises, are the fastest growing sector, and Asian American businesses are the fastest growing industry. Over 1.1 million Asian American businesses generated more than $393 billion in revenue in 2002 and hired 2.5 million employees, the largest among all ethnic groups. Most Asian American businesses, however, do not fit the stereotypical high-tech garage startups or mom-and-pop operations. The biggest share of Asian American businesses fall into the service category, such as professional, scientific, technical services, healthcare, transportation, construction, and so on. What are the issues and challenges that Asian American businesses face? Despite the large positive numbers registered by Asian American businesses in the past several years, many continue to struggle in today's competitive global economy. In the area of supply diversity, a program that encourages the utilization of businesses owned by minorities and women, Asian American-owned businesses continue to be underrepresented in all sectors except for information technology and telecommunications. contract funding is a major hurdle for small businesses and all minority businesses. Access and inclusion is a major hurdle for Asian American owned businesses. Getting certification accepted is a major hurdle for Asian American owned businesses. What do I suggest that we could do with MBDA? I suggest that MBDA work with organizations such as us, USPAC, such as MBDA, NRSDC, such as the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and its many, many affiliates to reach out to the nooks and crannies of the country, because we are the people in the grassroots. We have our ear on the ground. We know where the footsteps are coming. With us, we can help MBDA reach down to all corners of the country and perform the services that is so much needed, and send information
Yes.
that will truly benefit.
Thank you so much for your time. The chairman has been very generous here in the time allocated to you, but we do have to move on. So did you bring your statement to a conclusion? Have you concluded? Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. There is a vote that's occurring on the floor as we speak, but we're going to try to move as fast as we can. The chair recognizes himself for 2 minutes for questioning. Director Henson, it is unfortunate that MBDA is a largely unknown agency. Can you outline some steps that you plan to take to raise the profile of this, the only agency designed to assist and promote minority businesses? Can you?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. The Minority Business Development Agency, as is the Commerce Department, is moving aggressively to expose the activities of MBDA to our constituents nationwide. We are doing quite a number of things to increase our visibility. In conjunction with the Department of Commerce, we are going around and we are meeting with many of the stakeholders that are across the nation. They've expressed an interest in meeting with me personally. I've taken on that task to meet with them and to listen to all of their concerns. We are actively pursuing technology. We actually are one of the first agencies in the Commerce Department to begin to use social networking to expand our messaging around the nation. We are engaging with many of the other federal agencies. This is in partnership with the Small Business Administration under the economic stimulus activity, to ensure that they're aware of what we're doing and what our agency is doing. So we're taking quite a number of steps.
Let me just ask you this. There's a new Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the Department of Commerce. What kind of relationship do you intend to have with that office?
We expect, thank you again for that question, Mr. Chairman. We expect to have a very close relationship with that new area.
That office is not going to supplant you and your mission.
No, sir. It's a separate agent. It's a separate group that has a separate mission, and it's a vital mission. What it is doing is bringing the best, and this is under the leadership of Secretary Locke, is bringing the best of what the Department of Commerce has to offer to early stage and startup businesses, and providing a variety of technical services and support for those businesses. So, no, they're complementary. It's a complementary effort.
Yeah, the chairman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes Ms. Castor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Henson, what is the extent of MBDA's cooperation with the Small Business Administration in assisting small minority-owned businesses that grow too large for SBA programs? Does SBA communicate with MBDA and identify enterprises that they might not be able to help anymore, but could benefit from the assistance of your agency?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question. Many of those firms you're talking about, I think specifically about firms that graduate from the 8A program, we actually interact with quite a number of those firms through our 46 centers nationwide, and we actively engage them to help them prepare to actually compete in the open market. We have a great relationship with SBA. Our missions are different. We serve in some respects a different constituency in that MBDA works with minority-owned firms of all sizes at all levels in their growth cycle. SBA tends to work with more early-stage companies. And so what happens is many of the companies that we work with actually exceed the size standards of the SBA. But with that in mind, we have worked closely with them, again, particularly on a point you made earlier on promoting economic stimulus contracting for small and minority businesses. We have been engaged very closely under the leadership of Secretary Locke and Administrator Karen Mills to make sure that small and minority businesses gain their fair share of economic stimulus contracts. And we've been engaged in quite a number of activities in that regard, if I might take a moment to share some of them with you. There have been, under their leadership, there have been near about 200 different information and outreach sessions nationwide on economic stimulus. We have engaged in pulling together actual list of shovel-ready companies that we can present to, and this is us on the state level, that we can present to state procurement people and to the state government to make them aware that companies are ready to participate in these contracts. We, in conjunction again with the leadership, we have developed a tracking system to help begin to track the results of contracts, and we've now begun to see some of the results of those efforts in terms of contracts that come from the federal agencies. We've been engaging all of the federal agencies to make them aware of the importance of working with minority and small businesses relative to economic stimulus contracts. We've done quite a number of B2Bs, business-to-business programs to engage, particularly in the construction industry, prime contractors with subcontractors and build those relationships. And relationships are critical to making sure that subcontractors are added to the prime contractor structure under economic stimulus. So we've done quite a lot with SBA in that respect.
The chair, we have votes occurring on the floor, and I think there are less than 5 minutes for the votes. So I'm going to ask the witnesses, if you can, would you be willing to remain until after we have concluded? I think there are 2 or 3 votes, and then we'll reconvene this committee hearing after the votes. Is that okay?
We'd be delighted to, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would hate to see you all come such a long way and we're not fully engaged. So this committee stands. Did you have some, Ms.?
Yes, I've got a very special opportunity to meet Judge Sotomayor this evening, and I have to be at the building by 6 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, we intend for you to be there a long time before 6 o'clock, please. All right. So the chair will reconvene the hearing within 5 minutes after the last vote. Thank you.
Don't want to miss my chance.
I know. Hey, just
You're from St. Louis, right? Charlotte to us is like Kansas City is to St. Louis. Okay, you get it?
I get it now.
Let me have one of your cards.
Actually,
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Yeah. Let me just make sure that you hear it.
They can hear me.
Good. Ladies, we've got to head to the floor. I won't be able to make it back at 3 o'clock, but thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Was it on?
And my daughter moved from Chicago. Yeah. She was good.
Just for me or for her? Both of us?
Right. Yeah. Ms. Allen?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. I will not be returning. But
Oh.
Thank you so very much.
Great. I know Dr. Harris well.
Yeah, Andrea Harris.
I work with him.
Don't know. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Everybody knows how to do one like that.
How you all doing?
Keep trying. It took me 5 times.
5 times? We did it once and we gave up.
No, don't give up. You gotta
Just too much red tape.
Susan,
You
turn around.
just gotta go back and find out why you didn't do good the first time. That's how we got it. Take a picture.
One more change.
Absolutely. If you hear the name, I would highly encourage you to, she's in town.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd love to,
Just, I never, yeah, forward. I don't know if we're next week, I just have certain plans. I'm here November 11th. But I just want to put that name in. Now I'm going to reach out to you in the next 30 days. I know Carla's in town. What's the name of the company? November, but I would love for my book manager and I to meet with you. I want to hear what you're doing. Yes. I just got back. Many companies that focus on government.
Okay.
That's okay. We're unique in some ways, but that's not.
no, I think that's great. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't mean to be a pill, but I thought I better remind them. They kind of thought that, yeah, to see the judge.
You do what all the time? Eat in here?
In here?
Right up to
It's just so commonplace for y'all. It's not
You got up for Cascade.
Yeah, it's not commonplace for us at all.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Their gate looks Friday night.
Yeah, I got it. Just
Oh, okay. I know that well.
Yes, it's good, good. I was worried because I got stuck unsuccessfully. I couldn't get it out.
I know that. The library's that way. But I live in Smyrna. So,
I just, are you?
right.
Meeting that I can't. Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
Right, we're the receiving partner.
So, yeah. Yeah, who wouldn't, right? They say he's back. Okay.
No, he can't. Nobody will. I'm the only person. Right.
Yes, I sent it out to all the senators.
Good.
Yes.
Let's see.
Yeah, but
Good seeing you again. You're Al White from Hammerman and Gainer. And,
The subcommittee will come to order. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez, for 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the generous amount of time you've provided me. Welcome, one and all. And your testimony has so much in it that for later use by us, what we do with the statements, of course, and staff is refer to them as resource materials in the future. I just ran over here. I'm not what I used to be. I'll tell you that. But I do have a couple observations. There's a statement in here, and it's Ms. Hill's statement, that basically tells us why we're here today and why we have, within departments and agencies, certain sections that are devoted to the proposition that the world just may not be all that fair and that government has a responsibility to right a wrong and to pursue justice. And your statement is, parity for people of color in business does not exist. Discrimination is still widespread. Access to contracts, financing, and bonding, which lead to growth, prosperity, and employment, continues to be limited. Minority businesses need access and business development. And this is not one of these woe is me. I think we're just recognizing a fact of life and what we need to do. And what we're all seeking is that opportunity. And I just wanted to pay special emphasis to those couple of three sentences that you have that really gives us the guidance. I don't know if there's a member on this subcommittee, Mr. Chairman, that hasn't at one time or another served on small business committees. So we've had a lot of experience with the Small Business Administration. And I will tell Mr. Henson that you're quite lucky, because in every hearing that I ever attended when I was on small business, when we either had the administrator or someone in one of the sections from Small Business Administration, and we had other witnesses from the small business community, they were never greeted with words of praise and looking at a promising future to be working with you. So I just think you're doing something right, and just to continue on that path. It appears to me that everyone that of the witnesses here had great emphasis on the minority business enterprise centers. So, of course, the first thing is, do we have something like that in San Antonio? We're blessed. It's not necessarily for the auspices of our chambers of commerce, but rather our University of Texas at San Antonio. And I guess that's going to be Mr. Henson. You have how many 40s? Was it 46? I can't remember.
46 centers, sir.
46, and they seem to be a highly valued service that you provide with partnering up with individuals in these communities. And you may have touched on it, but what do you view as your biggest asset, your most effective tool, because you seem to have identified that as one of them, and what do you propose to do to expand on that which has already been identified as quite valuable?
Well, I thank you for the question. I frankly think our biggest asset is the leadership at the senior levels in the Commerce Department, who have, demonstrated a commitment to the Minority Business Development Agency. I think a very solid asset is the support we get from the White House, and quite candidly, another solid asset is this committee right here, because you're illuminating in a very great way both the issues that minority businesses face and the opportunities to the nation if we can eradicate the obstacles that prevent minority firms from competing successfully and effectively in all industries. What we will do at MBDA is to continue to do what we're doing, with one caveat, and that is we will certainly continue to integrate ourselves more into the Department of Commerce, taking advantage of agencies like the International Trade Administration, taking advantage of NIST and NOAA, and building stronger relationships there. In addition to that, and what that means is for our clients is really a greater focus on globalizing the minority business community, and there are tremendous opportunities around the world that we typically don't even discuss in the normal course of a discussion on minority businesses. We're going to continue to focus with the resources that we have on attempting to build a generation of substantial minority businesses. I mentioned in my oral comments the importance of building minority businesses that are $100 million or larger. That's typically the size that you need for these firms to compete as primes. The other unique component of that is that these firms create the vehicle from a relationship standpoint and from an access standpoint to help smaller firms actually grow and prosper. We will continue to focus on the President's initiative to move minority firms into frontier industries, which is very important: technology, alternative energy, healthcare, IT. And so we will focus on that as a part of our relationship, both with our centers and as a part of the activities that are going on inside the Department of Commerce. So that just gives you a thumbnail of the things that we are thinking about and focusing on.
Well, I appreciate y'all's testimony here today, and I think, Mr. Chairman, I have about 40 seconds, but I will yield back to you.
Thank you very much. Let me ask Director Henson, and then I'm going to ask the other witnesses also. The chair recognizes himself as much time as he may consume, and then the chair will extend that to the for a second round, extend that to the gentleman, any other member of the subcommittee. Mr. Henson, in the Secretary's announcement of this new Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and also his comments there were mirrored in a statement that you made at the Minority Enterprise Development Week Conference, where both of you all alluded to the idea that minority businesses must move away from service-oriented businesses and embrace future innovative opportunities such as clean energy, smart grid technology, and healthcare IT. How involved are you all, MBDA, how involved will you be in terms of making those types of transitions? And are you suggesting then that small businesses need to abandon the service-related industries?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. I'll answer the second part. No, I'm not suggesting that minority firms exit service industries. I am suggesting that minority firms have traditionally been concentrated in several industries. Those industries don't fully embrace the frontier industries that will be really the next generation for job growth. I mean, 20 years, 30 years from now, we'll be talking about alternative energy not as something that's new and innovative, but something that is part and parcel to our day-to-day vocabulary. And so, no, I'm not suggesting that at all, but it is important, as frankly the Commerce Secretary has outlined, as President Obama has touched upon, that minority firms do move more into the frontier industries. And it is a commitment, certainly on our part, and certainly it is of a great interest to the Department of Commerce that these companies be helped to move into these industries in larger numbers. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that this occur, and we're here to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask the other three witnesses, given what the director said, first of all, are you prepared, each one of you, are you prepared, or your businesses, Are they prepared to move into the quote frontier industries, as he's indicated? And what are the obstacles? And what do you think we can, as members of this committee, as the Congress, can do in order to help you to overcome the obstacles?
Well, I'll start, if you don't mind, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman. I would say most definitely, yes, our businesses are ready to move into Frontier. With services and opportunities that the MBEC and our market provide, it allows us to do that. We have been teaching our market for the longest time how to diversify their people, their product, and their service. And that means looking for a different type of customer than they normally do. The challenge from the small minority market in our avenue is that there is so much opportunity, that they're so busy working in their business as opposed to on it, that it's challenging for them sometimes to be able to utilize the resources that the MBEC has. And that's what our challenge is on the grassroots floor, is getting all the wonderful resources from our MBEC and getting the business to use it and get them out of working in their business and on it. And working on it is finding ways to get into that new frontier. What I hear from a lot of our businesses is when they get into there, what is the federal government going to do to help to give them additional resources to do that, whether it be in tax incentives or lessening the burden rules and regulations they have to go through and all the hurdles they jump through every day just to be able to find a widget and identify a new market and, oh, by the way, find a new growth industry and a new frontier. So it isn't that they don't have the capability and the imagination to do it. It's about the resources available to help them do that. And you can see with MBDA being one of the smaller agencies in terms of funding and all that they've been able to do with what they have, they're truly entrepreneurs because they're constantly doing more and more with less and less. But you can certainly see what they could do if more resources and influence was given to the agencies.
Ms. Hill?
Absolutely. We have businesses that are poised right now and are looking for new opportunities. One of the businesses in your district, in fact, Congressman, is Funk Linko. They're out in the south suburbs, and they are poised for energy and new technology. One of their challenges, quite frankly, oftentimes, though, is money. You know, access to capital still continues to be a problem for minority businesses. Whether they are small, mid-size, or large, you know, money is an issue, and especially as you're transitioning into a new business. I'd like to see this group, this committee, focus on getting us more access to money, and also because MBDA is not focused on a business that is of any particular size. It may be small, it may be very large. I am a firm believer that the larger the business is, and I'm not ignoring small business because we certainly have to do that, but the larger businesses can help the smaller businesses. So if they don't have access to capital, then it affects us all down the pipeline. So when you ask what are the challenges, quite frankly, are access to opportunity, and access to money.
Ms. Allen?
First of all, is it on now?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. It is now on. Sure. There are lots of Asian American-owned companies who already have the innovation. Mm-hmm. They need help to put that into a full prototype. One of our company is called Rabbit Air in Southern California. He's created, from a very simple device, he created a bigger device that will help to clean the air within buildings. And he is now selling to the veteran hospital, but he wants to expand that market, and he needs some extra money to take him there, or some new business. Another company in Virginia and in New York has come up with an innovation that will help to retrofit some of the government buildings, and he's lined up some potential contracts with many federal agencies, but he needs somebody who will have the confidence in him and try my building first. So what I suggest is that MBDA consider having a program such as the SBIC, Small Business Innovation Investment Corporation type, so that MBDA will be able to have access to that type of working capital or innovative capital for minority businesses to take whatever they have already created to the market. I also want to take this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to say that my testimony in the beginning was intended to give all the good news first before I come to the bad news or the the sobbing story. And I want to say that despite all the good numbers about Asian American businesses, there are still a major portion of them who are underrepresented in the minority business community. And I was beginning to talk about contract bundling. I think this is an issue, and I myself personally have fought for 10 years. 10 years. And I remember my husband used to tell me that, don't do it, Susan, it's a fact of life, don't cry over spilled milk. And I said we could change it. And I think hopefully with this administration and your leadership, we could actually take good look at contract bundling, because this consolidation practice, although sometimes it makes sense, unless it has reasonable ground for bundling all the contract, it is going to bundle minority business out of the market. What I suggest also is that we do work with MBDA. MBDA work out with us, and there's lots of programs that MNSDC, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we, the only national organization that represent this umbrella group of minority businesses, come to our events and be our partner. When we have our conferences, be there with us so that we could further promote the MBDA's programs and practices. One thing you could do is to work with the agency, not just the SBA or IT, but all agency, and work through the top. Go to the procurement offices and ask them to account for their spend, their contract opportunities, because the buyers are not going to listen to you unless the decision comes from the top. Similarly, I also suggest that MBDA also work with the major corporations and go all the way to the top and ask the CEO of all these companies, who many of them are dressing in small business costumes and go into the federal sector and get small business contracts. Ask them to make sure that their procurement offices will absolutely take supply diversity or doing business with minorities seriously, and give the CEO report. I think with the new interest in minority businesses, and Mr. Chairman, your interest and the current administration interest, I think there is a lot we can do to influence corporate America to spend more money in minority businesses, because we are good, we're very flexible, we can turn overnight and make things happen when major corporations have a hard time turning. It's just like a barracuda turning around in the Pacific Ocean. It would take about 3 days, but we would take about 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Director Henson, the MBDA as originally created under the administration of President Nixon was created to be, as Ms. Allen characterized, as being one barracuda. But now, today, in today's climate, one of the barracuda in terms of the federal government, or the main barracuda, the big tuna, a big barracuda in the federal government. But now it's spawned a lot of little bitty barracudas. And as a matter of fact, every agency, every department has its own version of MBDA, its own Office of Minority Procurement and its own operations. And it's been, so that means that minority interest, business interest in terms of creation and expansion, growth, technical assistance and opportunities, that there is such a divergent of focus among the different departments. And the different departments have uneven application levels and achievement levels. Some are doing great, some are doing not so great, and some are doing actually poor. Do you see that as being a problem, or do you think that there should be more of a centralization of the resources and the mission approach to MBDA? It should return back to its original mission, and with that, should it be, I mean, the whole, I think MBA is still operating under the original directive in 1969, that it hasn't been updated or at all since.
Yes.
Generally, yes. that, you know, even to the point that the word Negro is still being used to describe African Americans in the in this directive. So let me just ask you: should it be should it be renewed? Should it be reinvigorated, reformed, and should it have more of a centralized responsibility as it relates to minority businesses?
Well, let me just say, thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman, and let me just say that, you know, we welcome all of your views and all your wisdom and all of your advice on these types of issues and your leadership in that respect. The fact that there are multiple government agencies that provide exposure, if you will, and have offices for minority businesses could be looked at as a source of dispersion, which would then be deemed negative, or it could be looked at as an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity. I think that anywhere there's an opportunity for minority businesses to engage the federal government through any office is a good thing. What we need to do better, and what we have initiated at MBDA, is an effort to try to coordinate these efforts. Keep in mind that Commerce Secretary Locke has been very much interested and forceful in trying to create better coordination. And it's that leadership that we have taken to heart, and that's the direction that we move in. And as a part of that, we want to better coordinate our activities with all governmental agencies that focus on the issues that minority businesses face. So I look at that as an opportunity, and we are taking the steps to coordinate ourselves with the other federal agencies in that respect.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief because I know Ms. Ramos-Davidson does not want to miss meeting Sonia Sotomayor. And I don't blame you. She's incredible, by the way. But Ms. Allen brought something up, and Mr. Chairman, you've heard it because you've been here longer than I have, the dreaded word bundling and the disadvantage it places small business. But even if we graduate from, let's say, small business category, and we are where Mr. Hinson is more relative to that size business, you still have that issue because I don't think that minority-owned businesses, even after they graduate from the small business category, are free of some of the same problems that you referenced already. And this could have been a small business hearing in part because I just think it's a cousin of the same problem. It just kind of follows. So it leads me back to the director. Staff will always prepare memos, and they're so good. And I want to go over the last sentence of the memo because, and I do not want to discourage you from thinking big because you are thinking big, and maybe it's a new way of looking at things. But MBDA National Director David Hinson has laid out 3 strategic goals for fiscal year 2010. 1, increase the number of businesses that are minority-owned at the $1 billion level. Establish MBDA as the agency of choice for businesses that are minority-owned, policymakers, in the private sector. And 3, implement operational efficiencies. In addition, he has explained that minority businesses, quote, must move away from service, and we went over this, but I want to hit on the 3, and embrace the innovative opportunities of clean energy, smart grid technology, and healthcare IT. But those areas are hugely capital intensive. Even in San Antonio, and it's not a really small firm, but it's an IT firm, and they are incredible. And it's minority-owned, woman, and you may know Ms. Mendoza, Elaine. It's just fabulous, PhD. And she has a difficult time competing. And I hate to tell you, just the big enterprises out there in the IT world, and heaven knows when we get into the clean energy and smart grid, how will a minority-owned business that just doesn't have that kind of leverage, doesn't have that size, doesn't have the access to capital and such, how do you envision bringing them in? Because, like I said, I don't want to discourage. You're ambitious, you're young, You're thinking differently than many other people, and we need that. And what can we do to assist you accomplish what is a very ambitious goal, but one that we would love to be successful? And then I'm going to leave that question with you, Mr. Henson, and then for the three witnesses, if they have any suggestions.
Thank you for that question. Then when you start talking about, and I appreciate your point, and you make an excellent point. When you start talking about the growth of capital-intensive businesses within companies that are smaller, it does raise the specter of extreme difficulty. But what it also does is it necessitates a reevaluation of the growth model of the company. And it necessitates a reevaluation of the growth model away from organic growth strategies, which are typically part and parcel to companies that are more service-oriented and therefore less capital-intensive. And it forces the entrepreneur, the business owner, to consider growth strategies that perhaps they would not consider before. Those strategies include growth through merger and growth through acquisition, as Ms. Hill alluded to in her opening statement, growth through strategic partnership and growth through joint venture. Those growth models allow for smaller businesses to acquire the scale, to then obtain the capital, to then go into these industries in a bigger way. And so size of firm is not really the limiting factor if the business owner or the management team is willing to consider alternative growth models.
Thank you. Then I can start with Ms. Allen since I referenced your
Yes,
bundling
sir.
issue.
Most of the innovation in the United States did not come out of major corporations. They came out of small and minority businesses. They are the laboratory of innovation. If you look at the patents that are filed with the U.S. Patent Office, many of them were filed by small businesses and therefore the minority businesses community. I have one of our members, and he doesn't want me to talk about him, so I would leave his name alone. He has a product that can put out fire very quickly. But he's afraid. He wants to expand into the national market, but he does not want to have any major company to come into his business because he's afraid that once his formula is utilized, is exposed, he will lose that secret. So maybe we could put our heads together and find out how to protect these small and minority businesses who came up with innovation and ideas so that they do not have to be absorbed and taken over by major companies. So growing through partnership, joint ventures, and at the same time making sure that whatever they have spent, their hard-earned savings, their mortgaged house, to create that innovation will stay with them for some time, just like the patent, 12 years, let me have it, and then you can take it somewhere else. That will probably give the minority business the ability to go into more capital-intensive markets where they can bring the idea in and become a partner with major corporations. And I also want to say that in a way, America has become a place where making widgets is no longer our strength. There will be these competing economies in China and India who are together. The world population is such that China has the highest population. Second is India, and third is and the United States. And in the next 10 years, these three countries will dominate the population of the world. And China and India are rapidly growing in the global marketplace. They are our trading partners, but they're also our fiercest competitors. So we need to look at that as well and find out how we can partner with them. But that's where the market is. As they have more business in the country, there will be consumers who love the Made in USA label. And it's up to us to go across the Pacific Ocean and sell to them. So we ought to be thinking about what Americans are best at, what's in our head, our brain power. And that comes with service and technology, the latest innovation.
Thank you. Ms. Hill?
I have to agree with Director Henson. There is a way for us to grow larger businesses, but it's not the traditional model. You know, we have to start thinking differently than we've always thought. But before that, I want to say there's a place in the marketplace for everybody. Some businesses might want to be lifestyle businesses. They might be small, and that might be the best place for them to be, and they contribute to the economy, and that's a good thing. You know, some might be mom and pop and small businesses, and that's really okay. On the other hand, businesses that want to grow and compete and be in a larger space ought to be able to do that as well. But in order to do that, you can't do that organically. You can't just get a contract and a contract and a contract and expect that you will grow to be $1 billion business or even $100 million or even a $10 or $20 million business. You have to do something differently. The reason I am so strongly and so adamant and so so much in support of MBDA is because those strategies exist. There is a natural marriage between my organization and MBDA because we have businesses of all sizes that want to serve the entire community. What happens, however, when we start talking about small and we just talk about small businesses, then it doesn't allow the businesses to grow and to contribute to their best ability. I mentioned Funk Linko, for example. Funk Linko is already in the space that we're talking about, in that new energy space. They are, in fact, trying to build, trying to engage in opportunities in the Chicagoland area now. But in fact, they tried to get a loan. They were denied a loan to fund and develop a wind farm in Chicago. You know, so again, there are businesses that are there that are poised and ready to grow. We just need to help support them and to help find a way that they can continue to grow. Strategic alliances, buying businesses, mergers, acquisitions, joint ventures, that's the way to grow if you're not going to grow just organically. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ramos-Davidson.
Well, I would agree with everyone on the panel, but I'm going to add a few more things. Mentor-protege programs are a great opportunity, especially in the IT arena. We have a company in El Paso that attended a conference last year, and this company now has major contracts with companies here in the D.C. area because of what this individual learned at one of the conferences about the benefits of mentor-protege. It also taught the mentor what it takes to be a mentor, and it taught the protege how to create this relationship of trust, because that's what it's all about. Had it not been for the MBDA conference and their affiliation with our chamber and them coming into us, this individual would have never understood the dynamics that it takes to get to that component. I think elevating the awareness of the critical components of MBDA across the board from every agency is very important, because there is a disconnect in terms of understanding what SBA offers, what MBDA offers, and what other agencies offer. I've been doing small business minority development for over 30 years, and the biggest challenge is always how to better communicate, inform, and educate the market we're trying to serve to access and capitalize on these programs. Federal government makes it a little challenging because there's so much bureaucracy, there's so many rules and regulations, and some unclear communications about what agency does what. SBA is a great start place for someone who has an idea. MBDA is critical to taking that idea once they've gone to the year 5 and growing it larger than anything. But I think because people still don't understand what the two agencies do and how they can help, that tends to be a stopgap. I would agree with both these ladies that the most critical mass for minority business is capital access. I'm very fortunate to sit on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank in El Paso, Texas, which is our local branch. And I create a true face in terms of reality on that board with the more conservative bankers on that board. The challenge that we face all the time is they will not lend unless there's a relationship with that individual. And it's teaching our market, specifically our minority market, how to build that relationship. And from Hispanic perspective, my grandmother used to keep her money under the mattress because she didn't trust the bankers, but yet she had a hair business. So it's how to teach them, to do these things and be able to create that trust. Had she had centers like the MBEC, God knows where she would have been back then in terms of her business. So the critical mass here is looking how to create more resources through MBDA to allow us what we need on the ground floor to grow these minority businesses, because the heart and soul is definitely there, but the resources sometimes are lacking.
Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the chair is really just bursting to ask one final question. I think I will, if you don't mind. The American Recovery and Investment Act, what kind of impact is that? You mentioned funding sources.
To date, we've helped quite a few businesses to the total of $528,398,207, and I have a list of all the projects. These are projects from a construction perspective, from building roads to schools, to revamping industries, to all kinds of different things. The challenge with helping these businesses get this, which is a lot of money in our market, was helping them work through the maze of where it starts and where it ends. Because it started up here, but it's filtered through the states, and then the states filter it through the cities, but then the cities filter it through agencies, but then some cities don't, and some states just do it through the agencies. So you can see, I got to make a widget, I have to find a customer, I have to get it out the door, I've got employee rules and regulations, I have taxes I have to pay, and you want me to go through a maze of information to have shovel-ready projects? You can see how challenging it is. Without the resources of what we do through our MBEC and all the other 6 centers, the businesses in our market would have never been able to capitalize on this, because the maze of trying to find this has been absolutely grueling.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I hate to be the naysayer among the group again. You know, ARA has been wonderful, and many have benefited from it. But I wanted to make particular point today to talk about some of the people that are in our space that are particularly being served by the MBEX and the Inbox, but that didn't have opportunity, that were stymied for one reason or another. Ascended IT Staffing, it's an African-American firm. Claris is a $25 million IT Asian Indian firm. Weld Tech, a Hispanic-owned firm. VCT, an Asian firm that's about $40 million. All these people, and I have others here, I won't list all of them, but all of them were looking for opportunities, and particularly, again, access to capital. The banks aren't lending. You know, the money's supposed to be there. And in Illinois, you know how it works. It's coming to Illinois, and then it goes to the cities, and then sometimes the money is held up at the state level. So the people, from as much as we can determine, that are really getting the opportunities and the contracts are the same old people that have always gotten the contracts and the opportunities. The shovel-ready projects for us were shovel-ready. And even though they may have had DBE goals in them or some minority goal, actually the minorities didn't get benefit of those projects. At least so far they're really not getting benefit. There's a lot of opportunity, and all the money in Chicago or in the Illinois area hasn't actually been let as of yet. But that has been let, we have not substantially benefited from. Thank you.
We just held 2 regional conferences on ERA, particularly on transportation related, in San Francisco and in St. Gabriel, which is right outside of Los Angeles, 2 weeks ago. We had folks coming from different parts of the federal agency. Here's what we found out. First of all, recovery.gov, that website was created. It was so confusing they have to redo it again. So people tried to navigate, and they all gave up. And now we're spending, I think, another $10 million to redo the website. But once that's done, hopefully, the American people will be able to get a better grasp of how to drill down that website and go to the local state and city. 1/3, Mr. Chairman, as you know, of the recovery of the ERA is only for stimulus. The rest are tax cuts and also state tax relief, so 1/3. And with that, for this year, most of the money was spent on health IT. Construction had not, it's just beginning to get out this quarter, so I think the jury is still out whether they are reaching the America. I have talked to somebody from OMB when they came to our conference in Los Angeles to speak, and she said that, and I understand that because the president wants this program to be abuse-proof, waste-proof, and fraud-proof, and therefore the government folks are very, very careful about it, and we endorse that. What we are looking towards now is for the current quarter next year, how the recovery money will be coming through. It would be good if we could have more transparency in how things are done. It's still a old boys network, and here's the truth. Okay, they need to spend the money within the next 18 months. They are in a hurry, otherwise the money will be gone. So what are they going to do? They're not going to look at a minority business and say, I don't know who you are, I can't trust you. I'm going to go to my same old supplier and use them. Goodbye. That's what we are hearing right now. Now, what we're going to go to our suppliers, as minority businesses, is that go to find the prime contractor, find out who has been awarded those contracts, who has been doing business with the federal government or the major companies who are going to be doing business with the government through ERA or continue with ERA, and knock on their door. And here is what MBDA could come in, because MBDA has been given the responsibility to monitor contracts. Maybe we could give some more teeth to that role. And so like what the SBA does, they have small business specialists in every agency and say, how much are you doing with small businesses? And if you don't do well, the Inspector General from SBA will write a letter to the corporation president. The president send a letter to the general counsel. Everything will move around. I think that you have that capability. You may be able to move the chess a bit over.
Yeah, under the leadership of our Commerce Secretary, as you know, Vice President Biden tasked the Department of Commerce and SBA to work with minority and small businesses to ensure they get their fair and equitable share of economic stimulus contracts. I would tell you we're already there. We have in our 46 centers people who are focusing almost exclusively on creating opportunities, creating contract relationships for minority businesses. We have, as I indicated in my prior comments, been engaging in B2B relationships, particularly in the construction industry. We're actually doing the work to find out what primes are getting contracts, and we're engaging with minority subcontractors to ensure that that relationship is there that will lend itself to them getting a subcontract from a prime contract. So we're actually already doing what you suggested, and I thank you for your suggestion. We have been tasked with also doing tracking, and so we are completing the final stages of a computer software capability that will allow us to track on the state and local level. We actually already have our first run, if you will, which once we complete an evaluation, I'd be delighted to give you of what minority firms have achieved from economic stimulus on the federal level. And so we are right now scrubbing these numbers to make sure that there's a high level of accuracy and therefore a high level of confidence. But we think these numbers are extremely encouraging. And so all the things that have been outlined that MBDA, Department of Commerce, should do, we are doing as it pertains to making sure that, again, minority firms achieve their fair and equitable share of economic stimulus contracts.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking forward to that report as soon as you complete it, and
we'd be delighted
we'll make it available to all the members of the subcommittee. That concludes, unless you have any? Yeah, that concludes this hearing. Again, I want to thank all the witnesses for the generous and use of your time. You've been extraordinary, and you really have helped this committee move this ball along. And so you've been. It's been pretty exciting and informative to hear your testimonies. And I would just ask you to keep up the good work. You're doing a magnificent job, and we'll do all that we can to make sure that you're able to accomplish your goals and objectives, your mission, as your organizations deem fit. So thank you so very much. And Mr. Director Henson, thank you so much for your time. And please pass my dissatisfaction somewhat to the Secretary. You've done, maybe the next time you'll be promoted to Assistant Secretary and we won't have any beefs. Thank you. So no comment on that. Okay.
I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. God bless you. And this committee now stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.